A dark, gritty cinematic scene inside a grim concrete detention corridor. A heavily armed law enforcement officer in black tactical gear crouches in the foreground, aiming a flashlight toward a frightened, exhausted man sitting inside a small concrete holding cell. The officer wears a black cap and tactical vest with bold yellow lettering on the back. Another officer is visible in the background, partially obscured. Adding tension and depth, the man inside the cell appears dirty, bruised, and emotionally broken, wearing a torn gray t-shirt. He raises one hand slowly toward the light, his face illuminated by the harsh beam, eyes filled with fear and desperation. The environment is cold, industrial, and oppressive, with rough concrete walls, metal bars, house shadows dominating the frame. Add bold graphic elements and text at the top center. Stylized logo, reading Heartland 19 with a small illustrated horse-android emblem. At the bottom, large, dramatic red and white text reading. Ty kept his promise to Daniel. High contrast lighting, dramatic shadows, cinematic realism. Intense emotional storytelling, crime drama poster style, ultra-detailed, 4K quality, tense. In somber atmosphere, Ty sat on the edge of his bed, pressing his fingers against his temples. The room was quiet, but inside his head, a storm was raging. Every little noise, even the faint creak of the farmhouse settling, made his mind spin. He groaned and swung his legs onto the floor, hoping the headache would fade if he moved around. Walking through the familiar corridors of Heartland, he felt off. His steps felt heavier than usual, and he kept glancing at the walls, the pictures of his family. The farm tools hanging neatly as if something had shifted overnight. As he reached the kitchen, the sunlight streaming through the windows seemed too bright, almost harsh, like it was highlighting things he had never noticed before. Ty tried to shake off the feeling, telling himself it was just the headache talking. But deep inside, a tiny voice whispered that something wasn't right. He felt a tension he couldn't explain, a sense that a secret hidden somewhere on the farm was waiting to be uncovered. Moving slowly, Ty picked up a cup of coffee, but the warmth in his hands didn't calm him. He kept replaying small, ordinary moments in his head, conversations he had had with his family, notes he had left. Lying around, the letters that sometimes got misplaced. Normally these memories were comforting, reminders of a life he knew and loved. But today, they seemed to carry a strange weight, like little pieces of a puzzle that didn't fit together yet. Everywhere he looked, Ty felt his mind searching, trying to connect invisible dots. The barn, the garden, the tool shed, they all seemed normal on the surface, but his intuition told him there was something he had missed. Something that had been quietly hiding, waiting for him to notice. And with each passing minute, the headache throbbed harder, as if urging him forward, pulling him closer to a truth he wasn't ready to face. He paused at the doorway of the barn, taking a deep breath. Dust motes floated in the sunlight like tiny sparks of mystery. The smell of hay was familiar, but today it seemed sharper, almost like it carried a message meant only for him. Ty's eyes scanned the barn slowly, lingering on the shelves, the crates, the stacks of blankets. That's when he saw a small corner of paper peeking out from under a loose floorboard. His heart skipped a beat. It was almost as if the headache had guided him here, to this one hidden clue. Ty bent down, brushing off the dirt and reaching for the paper. His hands trembled slightly, the tension in his chest tightening. He didn't know what it was yet, but he sensed it was important. Something that had been kept from him, a secret meant to stay hidden until now. He hesitated for a moment, taking a steadying breath. With a slow, careful motion, he unfolded the paper, his mind racing faster than ever. As he looked at what was written, a chill ran down his spine. This was no ordinary discovery. It was the beginning of a truth that would shake Ty's world in ways he could never imagine. Ty's hands hovered over the small piece of paper, his fingers trembling as he carefully lifted it from the floor. The edges were worn, slightly crumpled, like it had been hidden away for a long time. He squinted, trying to make out the faint handwriting. The ink faded, but still legible. Each word seemed to leap off the page, drawing him in, making the headache in his head feel both distant and sharper at the same time. This wasn't just a scrap of paper, it felt like a key. A door opening to something he had never known about his own life. The barn around him seemed to fade into the background.
That
Scent of hay. The dust floating in the sunlight. Even the creaking of the old wooden beams, all of it disappeared as his focus sharpened on the letter. Ty's heartbeat quickened, a mix of fear and anticipation coursing through him. His eyes scanned the words, catching phrases that didn't make sense at first. Names he didn't recognize, dates that seemed important, and references to people he thought he knew everything about. A chill ran down his spine. How could something so small, tucked away and forgotten, hold so much power over his life? He sank down onto a nearby crate, clutching the paper tightly as flashes of memories raced. Through his mind, small moments he had overlooked suddenly seemed connected to the words on the page. Conversations that had seemed ordinary now carried hidden meaning. Faces of friends and family shifted in his memory, layered with secrets he had never imagined. The headache throbbed in sync with his rising panic, a relentless drum urging him to piece the puzzle together. Ty's instincts screamed that this clue was no coincidence. Whoever had left it here wanted him to find a tour. Maybe they didn't want him to. The ambiguity made his chest tighten. His fingers traced the words again, lingering on one line in particular. It was vague, cryptic, almost like a riddle meant to test him. But even in its mystery, Ty could feel the weight of truth pressing down on him. He realized that what he was holding could explain the things he had always wondered about, the small hints and oddities that never made sense. Suddenly, a gust of wind rattled the barn doors, scattering a few loose pieces of hay across the floor. Ty jumped, clutching the letter closer as if it could shield him from what he was about to discover. The sunlight shifted, casting long shadows across the barn floor, making the moment feel almost surreal, like time itself had slowed. Every instinct in his body told him to keep reading, to uncover the meaning behind this hidden note. And yet, a part of him hesitated. Some truths, he knew, could change everything. With a deep, shaky breath, Ty began to piece the lines together, connecting names, dates, and subtle hints. The headache pulsed again, but now it carried a strange clarity, as if his body and mind were forcing him to focus. Each word revealed a little more, a fragment of a story that had been buried for years, a secret that had quietly shaped the lives of everyone on Heartland. And in that moment, Ty realized this small piece of paper was more than just a clue. It was the beginning of a revelation that could shake the very foundation of his family and the farm he loved. As Ty's eyes stayed locked on the mysterious letter, memories began to flicker across his mind like old film reels. He saw himself as a boy running through the barns, hearing hushed voices in the distance that he had never fully understood. Faces of people he trusted, smiles that now seemed to hide something, and fragments of conversations replayed with new meaning. Every flashback carried a weight he hadn't noticed before, as if pieces of a hidden puzzle were finally clicking together. The barn around him felt quieter now, almost eerily still. Ty leaned back against a crate, letting the letter rest on his lap, his mind replaying moments that had once seemed ordinary. He remembered a late-night phone call he had overheard years ago, laughter that had sounded normal but now seemed coded, and a fleeting glance from someone that had unsettled him without reason. Each memory struck him harder than the last, layering onto the growing realization that the letter wasn't just a clue, it was part of a story he'd been too blind to see. The sunlight streaming through the barn windows caught the dust in sharp rays, creating patterns that seemed almost deliberate, as if guiding Ty's attention to certain corners, certain objects. He noticed small details he had overlooked for years, slightly misaligned photo frame, a locked drawer tucked into a shelf, the faint impression of words on a piece of paper left behind. The world around him felt alive with secrets, each one whispering for him to pay attention. The headache in his head throbbed in sync with his pulse, pushing him forward, urging him to dig deeper into the past. Ty's hands gripped the letter tighter as he felt a mixture of fear and determination. He realized that this was more than just a discovery, it was a confrontation with hidden truths. The memories he had suppressed or ignored now seemed like warnings, small nudges toward something he was finally ready to face. Every detail he remembered, every subtle hint he had brushed off, now connected to the cryptic words on the paper. It was as if the past had been waiting for this exact moment to reveal itself. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the barn doors, and casting shifting shadows across the floor. The changing light made familiar corners of the barn feel strange, almost secretive. Ty's mind raced as he tried to reconcile what he had always believed with what was now becoming clear. Flashback, this sudden recollection of hidden moments, wasn't just nostalgia, it was a warning, a guide. Ty's mind raced as he tried to reconcile what he had always believed with what was now becoming clear. This flashback, this sudden recollection of hidden moments, wasn't just nostalgia, it was a warning, a guide, and a key all at once. With every heartbeat, Ty felt the weight of something monumental pressing down on him. The letter in his hand seemed alive, vibrating with the significance of what it contained. He knew that if he followed this trail, if he allowed himself to confront these memories fully, he would uncover a truth that could change everything about his family, the farm, and even himself. The suspense built, tightening around him like a noose, but with it came a strange sense of purpose. Ty knew he could not turn away now. As the memories continued to swirl and the shadows deepened, Ty's focus sharpened. Every throb of the headache, every flicker of remembered detail seemed to lead him closer to a revelation he could no longer ignore. The past and present were colliding, and Ty was standing right in the middle of it. On the edge of a truth that would rock Heartland to its core, Ty's fingers trembled as he unfolded the letter fully, his eyes scanning every word with a mix of dread and disbelief. The handwriting, once familiar, now seemed almost alien, carrying secrets that had been buried for years. Each line felt like a small explosion in his mind, unraveling the foundation of everything he thought he knew. Names, dates, and confessions leaped off the page, intertwining with memories he hadn't understood until this very moment. The barn around him seemed to blur, the sunlight fading into a muted haze as if the world itself was holding its breath. Waiting for him to grasp the truth, he sank onto the crate, his chest tightening as the realization hit him. This was not just a family secret, this was a revelation that could change the course of Heartland forever. The letter spoke of decisions made in secrecy, of promises broken and hidden motives that had been quietly shaping lives for years. Ty's mind raced, connecting fragments from the past, hushed conversations, fleeting glances, and small inconsistencies. That had always puzzled him. Now they all fit together like pieces of a puzzle he hadn't even known existed. The headache pulsed stronger, almost violently, as if his body was reacting to the magnitude of the discovery. Every beat reminded him of the weight of the truth he held in his hands. Ty's eyes lingered on a particular line, the words echoing in his mind long after he had read them. It was a revelation that no one had expected, one that could alter relationships, trust, and the very sense of family that Heartland had always represented. His breath caught, and he felt a shiver run through him, part fear, part anticipation, part sorrow. Ty's hands shook as he folded the letter again, his thoughts spinning. The barn, usually a place of comfort and routine, now felt like the stage of a dramatic unveiling. Every shadow seemed longer, every beam of light more pronounced, emphasizing the moment of truth. For the first time in years, he saw the farm through new eyes, not just as the home he loved, but as a place intertwined with hidden stories and secrets waiting to surface. He tried to steady himself, to focus on what to do next. But the letters. Revelations were relentless, demanding attention, demanding action. Ty realized that ignoring it was impossible. This was a turning point, one that required courage, clarity, and perhaps even confrontation. Every memory that had once seemed trivial now carried significance. Every overlooked detail, a clue to the larger story unfolding before him. Ty's gaze shifted from the letter to the barn door, as if weighing the journey ahead, the world outside. The barn beckoned, ordinary yet forever changed in his eyes. The discovery was complete, but its consequences were just beginning. In that moment, Ty understood that Heartland itself would never be the same, not because of the farm, not because of the land, but because of the truth he now carried. Ty sank deeper onto the crate. The letter still clutched tightly in his hands, his mind spinning with a storm of emotions he could barely control. The initial shock had hit him like a lightning strike, but now the weight of it settled heavy on his chest, pressing him down as if the barn itself was closing in. Every heartbeat felt louder, echoing in the silent space around him, reminding him that nothing could ever be the same again. The words on the paper weren't just revelations. They were a fracture in the life he had always known, a truth he wasn't sure he was ready to face. He stared at the floor, watching a speck of dust float in a ray of sunlight, feeling like it was the only small piece of normal in a world that suddenly felt uncertain. His thoughts raced back to moments he had shared with family and friends, to trust he had given freely, and to decisions he had made without knowing the full story. Every memory he had once relied on now felt layered with doubt. The faces of those he loved flashed in his mind. Amy, Georgie, his father, and he realized that the truth he had uncovered would ripple through all their lives, whether he wanted it to or not. Ty's hands tightened around the letter, his knuckles white. Anger, confusion, sadness, and fear all collided within him, each emotion amplifying the other. He felt betrayed, yet he knew that blaming anyone wouldn't change what had happened. The truth was out, raw and undeniable, and it demanded acknowledgement. His chest ached as he thought about the conversations he would have to have, questions he would need to ask, and the difficult decisions he would have to face. This was more than a secret, it was a turning point that would test him, his family, and the farm in ways he couldn't yet imagine. Outside the barn, a cold breeze whispered through the open doors, it rustling the hay and carrying the faint scent of the farm. It was familiar, grounding, but today it felt like a reminder that life went on, even when everything felt broken. Ty lifted his head, letting the sunlight fall across his face, as if trying to find clarity in the brightness. The headache throbbed, a painful rhythm that mirrored the turbulence inside him. Yet in the midst of fear and doubt, a quiet determination began to form. He knew he couldn't ignore the truth, couldn't turn away, and couldn't retreat into comfort. Ty slowly rose to his feet, the letter still held close to his chest, and looked around the barn with new eyes. The familiar surroundings, once a symbol of routine and stability, now seemed alive with possibility and danger. Every corner, every shelf, every shadow felt significant, as if they were all pieces of the story that had waited years for him to notice. He realized that this moment, heavy with emotion and revelation, was shaping him into someone he hadn't been before. Someone who would confront the past, face the consequences, and protect the future. As the wind whispered and the light shifted across the barn, Ty exhaled slowly, trying to steady his racing thoughts. The emotional fallout was far from over, but he felt the first spark of resolve. The discovery had shaken him, yes, but it had also awakened a clarity he hadn't expected. He knew that moving forward meant confronting the unknown, stepping into a new chapter of Heartland, and carrying the weight of this secret with courage. And deep down, amid the chaos of feelings, Ty understood that this was only the beginning. Ty stood in the barn, the letter still clutched tightly in his hands, his eyes scanning the familiar walls as if seeing them for the first time. The sunlight, streaming through the windows, painted long, dramatic shadows across the floor, highlighting every corner, every detail, every secret waiting to be uncovered. His chest still ached from the revelation, but beneath the fear and confusion, a spark of determination had ignited. The discovery had changed everything, but it had also awakened something he couldn't ignore: a need to confront the truth, to face the unknown, and to protect the family and life he loved. Outside, the wind whispered through the open barn doors, carrying with it the faint, familiar sense of the farm, the hay, the earth, the crisp winter air. Normally comforting, the breeze now felt like a reminder that the world was moving forward, even as Ty's life had shifted irreversibly. He took a deep breath, letting the sounds, the light, and the moment settle in, knowing that this was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge him in ways he couldn't yet imagine. Every heartbeat reminded him of the weight of the secret he now held and the choices that lay ahead. As Ty turned slowly toward the door, his fingers brushed the edges of the letter one last time. The words had already begun to echo in his mind, shaping the path he would have to take. He knew confronting the truth wouldn't be easy, might fracture relationships, force difficult conversations, and test loyalties. But deep down, he also knew that ignoring it was impossible. Some truths, once uncovered, demand action, and Ty was ready to step into the storm, ready to face whatever came next. The barn seemed to hold its breath as he walked toward the exit. Each step deliberate, each movement heavy with meaning. The shadows danced across the walls, the light shifting as if to underscore the tension, the suspense, and the inevitability of what was to come. Ty's silhouette grew smaller as he approached. The door, the outside world, beckoning with uncertainty, but also with hope. He understood that what he had discovered wasn't just a secret, it was a turning point, a moment that would ripple through Heartland in every life he touched. The camera, or visual POV, lingers on the letter for a moment. The edges slightly worn, the ink faded, but alive with secrets. A subtle musical cue swells, amplifying the tension, leaving the audience on the edge of their seats. Then, the scene fades to black, the final words lingering on the screen or in the voiceover. Ty's life will never be the same. Are you ready to uncover the truth with him? The moment ends with a heartbeat sound or subtle wind rustling, leaving the audience desperate to see what happens next, perfectly setting up the next episode for suspense and engagement. Ty stepped out of the barn, the winter sunlight casting long shadows across the farm. The letter, still clutched tightly in his hand, felt heavier than ever, as if carrying the weight of every secret it contained. His mind raced, thoughts spinning faster than the cold wind whipping through the fields. Every step he took seemed to echo the unspoken question: what would happen next? Who would he confront first? And how would this discovery change everything he had built, both on the farm and within his family? The familiar Heartland fields looked different now, as if they too were holding their breath. Ty's chest ached not just from the shock, but from the knowledge that life as he knew it was over. He paused, looking back at the barn one last time, the shadows stretching like fingers reaching for him. The wind tugged at his coat and carried a whisper of the past, the unresolved and the hidden truths still waiting in the corners of his world. The emotional weight of the secret pressed down, almost suffocating, and yet it also fueled a fierce determination. Ty's gaze drifted to the horizon, the golden light shimmering on the distant trees and fences, symbolizing hope, uncertainty, and the unknown. His hands tightened around the letter. He knew this was only the beginning. The farm, the family, the people he loved, they would all be affected. Questions multiplying in his mind were endless. Who could he trust? How deep did this secret go? And would Heartland ever feel the same again? The screen, or visual POV, lingers on Ty's silhouette against the sunrise, the letter still in hand, before slowly fading to black. The voiceover, calm, but loaded with tension, whispers. Ty thought it was just a headache. But now nothing will ever be the same. Are you ready for what's coming next? A subtle sound, like a heartbeat, the rustle of wind, or a distant creak of the barn closes the scene, leaving viewers with a lingering sense of suspense, emotional intensity, and a burning curiosity for the next episode.